Hello Web Development Club. This is my third attempt at making this video, but I'm at home now and hopefully I can get it right. We had some microphone issues. I've had issues screwing up what I wanted to talk about, so hopefully this time we can do it the right way. So here we are. We are looking at Intro to Web Development. This is what we did last time. We discovered our doctype tag, HTML, head, meta, title, body, and our H1 tag. This is where we placed Hello World, which I have changed to Intro to Web Development. Closed our tags, and we ended up with a page that looks something like that, which was pretty bare, not much to it, but it's a good starting point. Today, we're going to talk about text and content, which is the whole purpose of the web. Now, you'll notice a lot of websites have a lot of pictures and videos and graphics, but when it comes down to it, the web was originally created for people to share information with each other. And information is first and foremost shared with text or writing. So we're going to learn a few tags today that teach us and allow us to use text on our pages in different ways. So let's start with one. Now, I already have Intro to Web Development like I showed you. It's at the top of the page, and that's the title of our page. It's our main heading. So I want something more specific that's going to talk about what we're doing today. So I'm going to make an H2. I'm going to date it. Today is October 8th, 2012. And today we're going to be discussing formatting text. Close my H2. Save it. And let's see what we got. So an H2 is a smaller heading than an H1. So if you want to use H1 as your primary title of your page, you can use H2s for main sections, H3 for subsections of those main sections, and so on. And that's one way to format text. And it's actually one of the best ways to do it, because when the browser, if you go to Google and you do a search, that's what it searches for. It searches for headings, and it searches for titles, and it searches for image names, and if you don't include that stuff, it won't find it and your website won't get found on search engines. So we're going to talk about formatting text. One of the primary ways to format text is within a paragraph, and the paragraph is created with a P tag, P for paragraph. Now I'm going to show you guys a way to get a bunch of text. It's called filler text. It's also called lorem ipsum text. And it makes no sense, it's not a real language, but what it is filler code or filler text to put in your web page when you want it to pretend to be real text. So if you have a big space where you're going to have a lot of writing, you use lorem ipsum, and it creates a bunch of text for you to use. Sorry, I thought I heard my wife coming in. It creates a bunch of text for you to use to take the place of your real text later on. So we want paragraphs. Let's say I want 3 paragraphs. Generate lorem ipsum, and there we go. So I'm going to copy that, go back to Notepad, paste, and there's our text. I'm going to close our paragraph tag. And let's see how our newly created paragraph looks in the web browser. Let me close some of this other stuff out. There we go, refresh. So here's our paragraph. Now, different browsers handle paragraphs in different ways. So our first paragraph here, it's not indented. It hasn't changed the font. All it did was tell you that this is a paragraph. Now, you might say, why not just type? Why do you have to put it in a paragraph tag? Well, 2 reasons. One, if you type text just randomly in your editor, it can get lost and it might not even get placed within the browser. 2, when I come back and look at this paragraph tag again, if I want to change the font in this paragraph, if I want to change the color, I can go to my CSS and I can tell it to target every single paragraph on the page and change them all at once. That way you don't have to go in and change it all separately. Let me show you what 2 paragraphs look like next to each other. I'm going to highlight this whole section, copy it, paste it, and now we have two paragraphs. Let's see how Chrome handles that. So here's the difference. Chrome, when it sees two paragraphs, it adds a space in between them. Now, some browsers, it might not add a space. It might indent, and it might put them right back to back. It's different in every one. But do not be scared of that. CSS can save us, and it will allow us to format it however we want. But for right now, this is fine. These are paragraphs. So let's look at another one. We already did H2s, and we did paragraphs. Let's look at one called pre. Now, pre stands for pre-format. Before I do pre, I want to show you what happens in a regular paragraph if I add a bunch of spaces. So this is some really spaced out text. You might think that when you render this, you're going to get to keep those spaces. So let's see. Look at this. Our paragraph, it didn't register any of those spaces. It just crammed them all right next to each other and put one space in between each word. So pre stands for pre-formatted text. And if I do the same thing using a pre tag instead of a paragraph tag, let's see what happens. So this is some really spaced out text. Notice two things. One, it kept our spaces. Two, it changed the font. Now that's also a browser issue. The browser knows that every time it uses the pre tag that it's going to add this certain font. We can change that. We're not going to right now, but we can. The important thing about pre is that it keeps those spaces, and that's what it is for. So that's the pre tag. Now I experimented with this one earlier. This is the code tag, and this is one of the reasons I had to stop video 2 and begin video 3. I thought the code tag was going to act in a certain way, and it did not, but now I kind of know what it's all about, and I will explain it. The code tag is to put a certain amount of display code on your screen. So if you want someone to see the type of code you're writing, you can actually use the code tag, put it in, and then it will show you that code on your screen. So let's say HTML. Let's go down body. Let's go down paragraph. This is a paragraph. Close body. Close HTML. Close the code tag. Not Cody, code. Let's see what that looks like. So right now, all that the code tag does is change the font, kind of like our pre tag did. Let's see if it keeps spaces too. No, it does not. So the code tag, all it is a different name for a tag, and it changes the font. So the code tag is really more for people. It's not for the computer. If you use the code tag, all you're doing is showing people who are looking at your code that this section is an area for code. And it's, again, back to called what's being semantic. We put headers in the header tag, we put footers in the footer tag, we put the body in the body tag, and we put code in the code tag. It's not real code, it's just text code that we want to show people. So that's the code tag. So we've got paragraph, we've got pre, we've got code, and okay, I think that's good. Let's move on to lists. So one of the next things we can do is making a list. Now there's two types. There's an unordered list, which is UL, and an ordered list, which is OL. And both lists use the same tags inside of them. So we're going to go down. Oh, Let me explain why I am tabbing over like I said I would earlier. The computer doesn't care how the code is laid out. As long as your tags are correct, and as long as everything is open and closed properly, you could write all of your code in a straight line and the computer would read it the same. We format it differently for the human eye to understand a little better. So I tab over right now. I'm going to create LI, it stands for list item. Create our list thing. Let's say first item. Close my LI. Close my LI, not just create another one. And now we have our first item. I tab it over and I make it what's called nested inside of another tag. So when you put one tag inside of another tag, it's good practice to tab it over so you know it's nested inside. And again, that's not for the computer, that's for us. It's so we know it's inside. Now we could write it like that, but it just makes it harder to read. If we do it like this, we know that this is inside of the UL. So let's see what an unordered list looks like. Go back to the browser, F5. Here is an unordered list. It has a bullet. Let's go back, add another list item, LI, second item, /LI, refresh, second item. So this is what a list looks like inside, this is what a list item looks like inside of an unordered list. It has bullets. So let's look at ordered list. Now if an unordered list has bullets, an ordered list, scroll up so you guys can see a little better. Get some spaces on the bottom. There we go. An ordered list has numbers. Notice the LI is the same. It's still LI in both because they're both list items. But with this one, when I write first item and second item, it's going to render differently in our browser. So now we have an ordered list. Instead of bullets, we have a number 1 and a number 2. And that's how an unordered list and an ordered list work. And that about covers all of our basic formatting text. So let's go over it. Here's our web page. We have our title. We have our heading, our H1 heading. We have our H2 heading. We have a paragraph, a second paragraph. We have a third paragraph that's not pre-formatted. We have a pre-formatted chunk of text. We have code, the code tag. We have the UL tag, which is our unordered list. And we have an ordered list, which is the OL tag. Let's look at it in the code. We have our title. We have our H1 heading. We have our H2 heading. We have our first paragraph. We have our second paragraph. Our third paragraph. We have our pre-formatted text. We have our code tag, our unordered list, and our ordered list. And that covers probably most of the basic text formats that we're going to see. And while I've still got you guys, I'm going to clean this up a little bit. All of these tags right here are technically inside the body tag. They are nested. So I'm going to tab them over. Now I know they are all inside the body tag. I don't like my paragraphs like this. I like mine like this. Now you guys, you can do it however you want. So what I'm going to do is go through and I'm going to clean up all my text here, and next time you see it, this will be nice and pretty. And I have to cut this video short a little bit